Hello everyone. Today I wanted to do another simple example with a tool. I'm trying to keep up with the simplicity. Let's see if it's possible. And I made an example using the face track from the designer. You can input a video, and here you have a chop. You can see I have a video. It's me. And this is a face track, which you can actually get data out of it. The example, I will not make it from scratch, but I rather will go through how it's done, and I will explain how I made this thing. I hope it doesn't take too long. I'll just brush through it. But most of it's in the example files. I just copied the snippets. And mainly what we want to focus on is the how to send specific face track data to Unreal Engine. Here you see a preview. This is only for TouchDesigner. And this is my puppet that I did. Oh, I wanted to do this for so long. And now if I move my head, it's following the eyes have physics and the tongue as well. I made this character in Houdini. Maybe I give it a bit of an insight how I did this. But long story short, the idea is to send the rotation of our head through the camera that is grabbed. Then we can also send the points. You see here, I'm getting the OSI from TouchDesigner. I'm not using it yet because, to be honest, I don't want to spend time figuring out to make a system to transfer this to the actual face. So for now, I'm keeping it kind of simple. That's why. Otherwise, I will end up like this if it's not already how I look already. Let's get into it. Now, to not make it too distracting, for now, I will close Unreal and I'm going to zoom in TouchDesigner. And as I mentioned, you can always select the operator. This is a chop called face track. I'm planning to see if I can do the same for the body track, which seems really, really cool as well. But that will take maybe a bit longer. But long story short, I'm using this operator called face track. You can always open the operator snippets. And what you will see is that we just get a set of channels that are points of our face. This here in the top is checking the point data. It's every point of the face. It's represented in this turquoise color here. And you can see this is quite used for blend shapes if you know how to use it. I'm still figuring it out. If one day I figure it out, I might put it online. And we also get more simple data like the rotation. This is like I guess an aggregate of the points, and then it can calculate a little bit of the rotation. These comments here on green are the ones that are being sent to Unreal mostly. This one is also sent. If you press X, you will see the connections. This is a bit cleaner to talk about it. This is quite simple. It's taking the rotation, as I mentioned. You can see that when I rotate, I'm going to open this a bit bigger. You see that the channels change a lot. Now, this, I think it's not filtered at the moment. That's why I'm filtering it here. That's another pro of TouchDesigner. For example, if I would bypass this filter, you will see that now the box that represents the rotation is really jittery. This is something that we can toggle on and off, and we could try as well and see the difference. If nothing crashes, of course. But I'm going to disable the filter, and now you see that my data is sent correctly, but it's just way too much. This is one benefit of using TouchDesigner, where we can actually unravel the process in the way we can modify data, and we can use filters, which are extremely useful. And if you see, if I pull it back up, it smooths out a lot the rotation and the position. How I did that, I bypass it. I'm pressing B in the keyboard. It's a shortcut. And that's how that works. I'm going to take this away again. Let's go back to TouchDesigner. And then this is where I'm filtering. I'm actually sending rotation and a vector for the position. And I'm also sending the points because I wanted to show something that even though I did an hour video how to use the tool, I didn't show, which is how to pack data with custom addresses. And let's take a look into that first. The rotation, quite simple. I get the channel. Here I'm setting the pitch. I think I'll just leave the theme because it's gonna be useful to show like the way you can interact with these systems. But basically here I can edit the pitch because by default seems like I have to put the head a lot and I don't want to break my neck. So this is a way that I can now adjust the pitch. You can see that you don't even need to use a face track. This is already amazing. But yeah, it works in combination with the thing. Oh my God, it's going to be so fun. Great. And here, for example, I'm exaggerating the rotation, which is coming from this face track, and I'm multiplying it for a little bit. You could also do the opposite and dim it. So if I multiply it by 0.5, you will see that now it's actually the opposite. If I do by 2, it will be much more exaggerated. Just things that you can play. That's why I like to use this tool, because I can look at the result and just play with the things at the same time, and they are really responsive. Then for the location, I'm using the B-box. The B-box, it's referencing something called the bounding box. And the bounding box is like this area that encompasses our face track. And here it's represented by this box. And this is what I can fetch the location. If you think about it, even though the face has like 64 points, it represents a head, and a head could be represented by just 1 point. And that would be the average of all our points, right? That's what the B-box U and B is giving us, is the average of the points of the face. Kind of cool. But what it's doing is that it's giving us a coordinate in UV space, because the face tracking TouchDesigner is tracking the space of the camera. But what I'm doing is to actually create some sort of velocity. I delay the value by 0.2, and then I subtract it to the input. What that does is that it zeroes it out. A better way to maybe visualize what's going on here is to use a trail. And you will see that only when I'm actually moving, the values are going to send something. Otherwise, it will go back again to 0. You can see that if I move my head, it goes like this. And if I stop moving, it stops sending data. This is a way so that I don't have to change the location too much of the puppet, but I can just actually move it a little bit according to the velocity that I'm generating when I move my head. It's a simple technique. Subtract the velocity in time, you get blah, blah, blah. But this is one way to do it. I think this is also just generating the range. I am also multiplying it by 100, because Unreal units are different than 0 to 1. If I want to have a substantial move between left and right, I'm going to need to have that value. And of course, I can just put it at 200, and you will see that it's much more exaggerated, or like 300. And at some point, it goes out of the screen, like, yeah, that's really good. Okay, that's a way so that the head always stays in the center, and it only moves according to the velocity of your head. Really cool trick. If you didn't know, now you know. And this is sent through the vector. And lastly, in the TouchDesigner side of this example, it's the points. It's these 68 points. Even though you see 136 channels, there are 68 points. If I check the last name, 68 is because every point has a value of a U and a V. It means that the X and a Y in the space of the screen. And that's what's being sent here. In this sketch, if you press a spacebar while you play, you will see that you get these channels. And these are sent from here, right? It's a vector too, different than the location. This was a single send, and this is a pack. A pack is a way to send a lot of different channels. And then what I wanted to show as well is that you can use this custom prefix. By default, it's using the incremental from the address. And here you will see it if I change this. Okay, this is probably going to break. I don't think you should do it while the Unreal Engine is going to play, but I'll just do it just in case and see what happens. But I shouldn't do it, but I'll do it anyway. Oh, you see something crashed a bit here. Ideally, just stop and then do it again. And you will see that if I press, I now get a different name for each point. Now, these names for the points are being fetched by the name of the address that I'm using. And this is the face pose. And then it gets an index of each vector too, and it uses it for appending that index. In the first one, for example, will be the face pose, right? And then 0, because it's an index 0. Then it will be face pose, index 1, etc. There is a way that I made, which is the pack type. I don't know, it's such a weird name, but you can set that as a custom prefix. And here I'm going to stop it and enter it again. And what it's doing now is it is fetching the name of the channel. They need to match. That's ideally what you want. And then you can use a delimiter. If, for example, I make a slash, they will tell you that you should not do that. You will break the the thing. So use like the semicolon or the two dots, and then it will take the name and it will get the name of the channel, which is really useful if in the future I do the thing of body tracking. Then you can separate the head position, the shoulders, the hands, etc. It's the best way to get this data, and you will see why in Unreal in a little bit. That is almost it. The other thing that it's important to note is these renames. By default, you can see that the channel of the face track is using a slash forward. I am renaming these channels to avoid that, because that would create issues on sending channel data to OIC, because it will create new addresses, and you don't want that. You want to have the tool do that for you, and you want to have the input be clean without slashes. I don't have any validator, so it's more up to you to know, because that takes more time than I think it will become a problem. So let's take a look at the Unreal side then. I'm gonna probably open the blueprint of the face. Let's take a look. Just to show, this of course will be included in the plugin. I'm just trying to build a few examples for the future. So if you purchase the tool, thanks a lot. It's helping a lot on the development. And if you didn't, well, you see that it's sort of growing. We made the audio reactive a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm making the face track, and hopefully I can do a bit more in the future too. Then this is the example where it's in face track. You can open the L face here. You can see it's this level, and then everything else is inside. This is this weird mesh that I did. I generated in Houdini. I might be able to open it a bit later and show a bit that, but I don't think most people are interested on that for this tool, so I will leave it for the end. And what we are interested though is the blueprint that is fetching the data. So remember last time we did this kind of audio reactive thing, really cool. And now here we can do the same, but for the face tracking. What it's doing, again, we send specific data, rotation and a vector, and I'm getting it here. I'm also naming it. So for example, this is get vector to the position. That would be this one. And just very straightforward, you get the null face B box is the name of the chop, and the name of the address is face position. And then this is being sent to this get vector on tick. And this is the event dispatcher that sends the data from TouchDesigner. Well, actually, this event that receives the data from TouchDesigner, and then we can break it. The data, it's a UV space, and now I can show what I mean by that. If I detach from this, you can see that it's a flat set of points in UV space. That means that it's only X and Y. There's no need for a Z coordinate because it doesn't exist. I guess you could do something with depth sensors, but I don't know. That probably is possible. But in this case, it's a X and Y, so you will be flattened out. In perspective, if you have the other one, this is actually a geometry that exists in Unreal Engine, and this is not flat at all. It's actually has a long tongue, and it's running physics on top. It's a bit just to show that it's about how you use the data, and if you understand the way that it's sort of processed and what things can you do with it. Sometimes you don't need to have 65,000 points. You can just use like these two, and it's still really fun. So technically, the object that is in 3D is only these two, and these points are the bigger one for people that could be interested. Then what else do we have? It's quite simple, as I said. We have the rotation, which is this one. This one is sending the face rotation. There are, at the moment, differences in the coordinate spaces between Unreal Engine and TouchDesigner. And it's not that that's going to change, it's just that's how it is. And I'm not converting them directly. Maybe that could be something that I do in the future, so you don't have to break these rotators and change like the scale. So that's negating the x-axis, and also the z is swapped. What this is happening here when you do this is you are rotating the actual data structure, and that's when you can get the proper rotation. If it can show this without this, let's say I plug the incoming rotator to the set the rotation. I'll show you what I mean by that. You will see that there are differences between the two. If I look right, this one goes down. If I would look left, this one goes up, right? And you would ideally have it so that it's synchronized. That's what exactly it's doing here. is changing these values and setting the proper axis. And if I do it now, you will see that if I go left, it goes left, right, up and down. That's kind of why it works like that. As I mentioned, this I may take a look in the future to make it a bit easier, but it's just it's too much work. So maybe for now, take this as an example and use it like this. Then the position is the same. I'm negating the x-axis for the same reason. And then we have the point. So the point comes from this vector to pack. You only have to set the operator name, which is the null face points. So over here, there you go. And you are getting a map of keys and values. The keys are these addresses, so it's key 0.1, key 0.2, key 0.3, etc. And then you can find a value from that specific key. In that regard, let's say you want to find the value from 0.1, you could either loop throughout all the keys, or you could also try to find it without to have it. You could do this as well and say, I want my 0.1, for example, and this will give you that specific index and that specific element. That's why I chose to use maps in Unreal, because it is very useful to map this data, and it saves a lot of time in order to not have to make crazy amount of your arrays and stuff. You can just do it here as well. And then I'm just draw debugging a point, which is this pink color, and a string. That's kind of the name of the thing. This could go as well. And that's it. This is then simply shown by when we press a spacebar. It's flip-flopping between the face being shown and the points of the face being shown. And again, if you press a spacebar, you will iterate over the two. And that's it. Let's see if I can take it to the Houdini thing, but I don't know if I should. Okay, let's see what comes next. Really quick, I don't know if someone's interested in this. I still think they start to have a bit of a strange audience. There is like people that like TouchDesigner, people that like Unreal, people that like Houdini, and I don't know if it will become a bit weird for people to see all these different things, but I guess a bit of a insight of my workflow anyway. Besides this tool, one of the reasons I did it is just to work on these characters, to expand my own tool set so I can start making the things I want to do in the future. And Houdini has been like a pillar for quite a long time. I really enjoy the software. It's phenomenal. And I've been researching a lot on procedural skeletons. And this is one example of the things that I made. Actually, a lot of these HDAs that you will see maybe here, if you know Houdini, you might not have, because there's like this kind of icon. I made a package for making this type of skeletons. But I think it's interesting to see as a non-Houdini user what is possible. And what is possible is that you can just create very interesting characters very easily. I might want to make more in-depth tutorials at some point of how this can be done. I cannot get rid of this space. It's hilarious. And yeah, it's just like a really procedural process of generating characters, and I enjoy it a lot. Like it's been a very nice asset to get into my skill set. And this is how I made this weird character with tongue. And maybe just to show what I mean by procedural is that, for example, this tongue is generated by this curve. And I'm going to make this character like as a template so we can watch the curve. And that means that I could draw a different shape for the tongue. Let me show you here. I'm going to bring a new thing. You see that the tongue now disappeared because I'm using a different curve. And I have to set this as Z and X, so it will draw locked into this axis. And now I can start to draw my tongue. And actually, let's see if I can just start to draw it. As you can see, it's really cool too. I'm making some sort of Pokemon or something. But it's great software. Like it has an insane amount of possibilities for character design. Like it's great. For example, if you change the curve, everything else will be computed, which is super cool. You don't have to now redesign the tongue, but you can just have a really sick system that does it for you. Why no one would even like that? That's amazing. And for example, I have here, I don't think this is working now because I probably touched something I shouldn't have touched. But yeah, it should be fine. Let's see. link it here. See if it's actually deforming. And I use this join noise to see if things are working. Basically, you can connect the join deform, which will show you how it would move a bit. And this animation, you could export it to Unreal, but I'm just exporting the skeleton and the mesh. The skeleton being this thing, right? This is a skeleton in Houdini. It's a bunch of points. That's why you can create this crazy stuff. And that you can generate the formations. And you can see it now. The skeleton is being moved. It's really nice. Yeah, that's it. A bit random for people that like TouchDesigner, but I guess it's also fun to see, maybe. Okay, thanks and see you next time. Bye.